Lights going on?
You ready for the lights?
Yes, please.
Action!
Hi everybody, my name's Sam. Thank you for coming to this evening. One of my roles as part of the Environability team is to facilitate LeisureLink. LeisureLink was started to get people into shared leisure opportunities and involve different peer groups. Part of what the guy is doing is brilliant, and we would have never ever imagined from what we were running to be running to the guys achieving what they're doing today. If you want to ask any more questions about LeisureLink afterwards, that would be brilliant. Thank you. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Hi, just to introduce you all. So we've got Bev at the end. Hi. Daniel, Harvey, and I'm Gail. Okay, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the Jubilee Sailing Trust, or the JST, which was formed over 40 years ago, and from the seed of an idea that it would be possible to get people of all physical abilities out on the sea sailing a tall ship. So we were lucky enough a few years ago to meet the sister of one of the founder members, and she knew that Harvey was interested in sailing and he does sailability, and so she suggested that we Google JST, which we did, and we were very taken by the attitude of the JST that anybody can do it, and so we signed up for a day sail, and so we went along, and the trip that we're talking about is actually our third trip on the Tenacious. The Jubilee Sailing Trust has two ships, the Lord Nelson and the Tenacious, both specifically designed for people with all physical abilities to take part in the sailing process. The Tenacious was built in 2000 in Southampton by professional shipwrights, along with many volunteers of all abilities. And we were lucky enough to meet one of those volunteers on our trip, and he showed us very proudly the railing that he'd actually sanded and varnished. So that was really interesting. The Tenacious has been on several round the world trips, and she returned last summer before we joined her at Dartmouth in September. Okay, so over to Dan.
So this is us excitedly waiting to board the Tenacious, which is anchored midstream, and it's just above, is anchored just above Gael Sayce.
Over to Harvey.
Here I am, and I thought, I looked on the internet and I thought, but Tenacious mystery, so I thought, how on earth are we going to get there? So I looked up on a rubber dinghy, and I thought, how on earth are we going to get down there onto the dinghy? So we took so it manhandled the wheelchair and myself onto the boat.
Sorry.
Here Michelle is one of them. Her crew is to she helped us to cast the boat off and get us down to the Tenacious. Here I am being hoisted up onto the ship.
And how did you feel about that, huh?
Very excited.
Okay, and over to Bev.
Our journey took us 5 days and 4 nights. As you know, we left from Dartmouth and we travelled on to Lyme Regis, and we anchored just off there. The following day we went along the Jurassic Coast, and we went past Portland Bill and the lighthouse, and anchored just off Chapman's Pool. The following day we went further round, and we went round the Isle of Wight to Sundown, and then our final part of the voyage the following day was to go into Portsmouth.
So this is we moved the ship from midstream to moored, and this is on night. And this was when I was doing night watch. And as you very quickly find out on the ship, the saying "a ship never sleeps" is very true.
And that was in Dartmouth.
This is our watch team, and with our watch leader, who was Drew. This is me looking out for. So this was when I was on watch, looking out for crab pots and other shipping vessels, and we saw quite a lot of crab pots.
We left Dartmouth, beautiful Dartmouth, under the steam of the engines and headed out to sea. And as we got out to sea, we were escorted by dolphins.
This was this was me learning how to coil the ropes, and here I am learning. These are when I put the coiled rope onto the pin, but also at the end of the coiled rope you have a knot on, so that you can feel when you come to the end of when you're at the end of the rope, which is mainly for blind people.
Over to Harvey.
Here, Drew and myself, we're getting ready to do coiled coiled ropes. We'll do a big sheet. It would take a few people to do a big sheet.
They were the sails, weren't they?
Big
Harv?
sails.
Yeah, to set the sails.
Set sails. Here, we're getting ready to do all the sheets now. Well,
It's when it's a big sail, isn't it?
yeah.
We all have to pull together. Yeah.
So we have to. So it calls 2 sets heave.
Oh.
2,
6 heave. 2 6 heave. 2 6 heave. Little demo.
Here we are getting ready to here all the sails are set. Yeah.
So she's in her full glory here with all her sails set.
Full glory.
To get the sails actually set so that we can sail by wind and turn the engines off, somebody has to climb up the rigging and release the sails manually on the bottom 3 sails. Fortunately, the top 2 are actually automated these days, thankfully.
This was a photo I took at Lyme Regis, and I was talking to somebody called Daz, who was a medical officer on board, and he was fishing.
What did he catch then?
Oh, he caught quite a lot of dogfish, and apparently dogfish aren't great to catch. So he wasn't over pleased, but yeah. But he put them all back as well.
Okay, this is the following morning at Lyme Regis, and we had to get up early because we were on early watch. This is the sunrise over the Isle of Portland. Okay, so when we're on watch, part of the duties are to take measurements. So we have the radar you can see in front of Harvey. So we have 2 fixed points on land, and we have to take measurements and work out whether or not the ship is actually drifting on the anchor with the tides. We also have to check sea conditions, wet and dry air temperature, wind speed, and cloud cover, and we have to log it in the ship's log every 15 or 30 minutes. Over to Bev.
Well, this is the crow's nest. And when we, before we set sail from Lyme Regis, we were told that we could actually climb up to the crow's nest if we wanted to. One of our fellow crews, a lady called Fiona, she actually said the night before, she said, I've got a real fear of heights. I'm not going to do it. I don't have to do it. I'm not going to do it. Well, the next morning she slept on it and she said, that's it, I'm going for it. And she did. And she did it with fear, but she was so proud when she got up there. It was lovely.
Over to Dan.
So this is me all harnessed up, ready to go in the safety harness with Drew and Michelle.
So we started our climb. The first part of the climb, we had to climb out onto the handrail, the outside handrail of the ship, to get up onto the rigging. So before we'd even started, it was but off we went, and that was the start of our trip up the rigging. Here we are a little bit further up the rigging, starting to smile, which is a good sign, isn't it? And attached, each of us was attached to our harness, as Dan said, and we had 2 sets of clips, so we're forever trying to put these clips on the rigging or on the ropes, wherever we needed to be. But we mastered it, mainly by the time we got to the top. And here, we actually got to the crow's nest, and we got up and beyond. And I don't know if you can see, Gail's up there waving cheerfully along the yard arm, having a great time looking out to sea. She'd chosen the hardest route to get up there, but she'd done it. It was fantastic.
This was myself and Harvey waiting to go. Very excited, but a little bit nervous. This was me starting my assisted climb, and I was just literally on the railing, just about to go up. And this is probably the trickiest part of the climb, because as you get up, you go through a hole in the crow's nest, which you go through. So that was, and this was at the top. It was an amazing view, and it was just enjoying the incredible view, and you could see for miles around.
Over to Harvey.
Here I am getting ready to be hoisted up the mast. We put a metal plate and a harness on my chair and myself, ready to go up.
So here's Harvey starting his ascent.
We're all hoisted, we're all pulling on the ropes to help Harvey up. See, it was quite windy that day.
And we're actually out at sea at this stage because the tide has started to go out. Here he goes, up and away.
The wind.
Harvey, is there anything you'd like to tell us about this point of the journey?
It was nice to do that. It was quite nice actually. Not much swaying at all. There was a bit of swaying, but not much.
And were you nervous?
No.
I was. Okay.
As Harvey reached the top.
Here we are. Here I am with a nice looking view, and we disconnected. We're hoisted a bit, and then we'll be around to look at the views as we went along on the sea.
Okay, so we move along the heart of the Jurassic Coast, which is actually a World Heritage Site, where Mary Anning first discovered the fossils that are hidden there. And on around the Isle of Portland and Portland Bill, which is the most southerly point of Dorset, and a very dangerous part of waters for shipping because there are a lot of sandbanks and shallow reefs. Okay, and on to Chapman's Pool, which is idyllic. It's a really remote cove off the Dorset coast. No houses, no cars, and no Wi-Fi. It's heaven.
And so when we anchored, the captain said, "Would anyone like to go for a swim?" And we were very lucky with the weather because it was when we had that sunny period. So I thought I would go for it, and this is me climbing down the ladder. And then after I climbed down the ladder, I thought, because other people had jumped in, and I thought, right, I'm going to go for it. So I ran up and jumped, and it was fantastic. I mean, it really was amazing. And this is a swimming. So this is me and Bev, but there was about 20 other members of the crew.
Thank you to Bev.
On the ship we had what was called happy hour. Well, you'd think, yes, wouldn't you? Relaxing music, sit down, put your feet up, have a drink or two. No, it was cleaning time. All hands on deck. Harvey, Dan, Gael and myself, we actually were involved in cleaning the upper deck. You can see we did all the handrails around the whole of the ship, and we mopped the decks, and Gail was great with the mop. She's a whiz. One of the tasks we had while we were away was each and every one of us had to do mess duty, and that meant getting up early, really early, before any of the crew, setting up for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Sometimes when it was nice, we had our meals out on the upper deck, which was absolutely lovely way to eat meals. And if it was a bit windy or stormy, we'd go down below and we'd had them on the tables, and the tables all had a lip on them, and we had non-slip mats, so that if you're eating your dinner at an angle that the ship was at least the food wouldn't slip off. You just made sure you didn't have too much soup in your bowl. Again, a picture of mess duty. I don't know if you can quite see there, but there's Dan, busy away on mess duty. I remember we had the opportunity to work with lots of other crew members when we did mess duty. And I remember working with a gentleman who was from Italy. Well, I don't speak any Italian. He didn't speak any English. So we did lots of high fives. And we did lots of full plates, empty plates. And we got by. It was fabulous. After mess duty, we often had the chance just to have some quiet time or sleep. And here you can see a picture of one of the bunks that we stayed on. We had.
Okay, so the following morning, still at Chapman's pool, we woke up to find a fisherman's boat approaching us, and he wasn't too happy because he'd been the previous morning, deposited his lobster pots and lines, and thought, oh, nice quiet place, didn't really, mark it too well. And he came back the following morning to find a whacking great tall ship right over top. So his lines were entangled round our anchor. So after much sort of to-in and fro-in, and we had to launch the rib boat as well. The captain was really careful. It took about half an hour to actually free the lines, but we got there. So they sent him off with a couple of bottles from the galley, and he was quite happy.
So this is a funny story actually. So it was in the morning. We had an SOS from another ship, and as we were the closest to the ship, we had to respond. And so we got there, and we found out that the SOS was because they were short of tartar sauce. So the chef went and made some up, and we tried to attach it to ropes. We tried to give it some, unfortunately, because of the conditions, we couldn't. So we sent them an email message, sort of what the recipe was, and they sent us a Mexican wave back and an SOS supply our sauce.
To Harvey.
Here we are. Every morning we have, and every afternoon we have smoko, which are cake and biscuits, and if there's a birthday, I know when the chef made the birthday cake for everyone to share.
We all had a turn at the helm, steering the boat, and here you can see it was Dan's turn. Here you can see it was Harvey's turn, and we lifted Harvey up onto the captain's chair. From this one you can see some of the instruments that we had to use, and the captain would give us the course that he wanted us to take, and we had to use the instruments to follow that course.
Okay, so the ship is totally accessible. There's lifts enabling you to go to all 3 decks. There's also modifications for people with visual impairments, like little markings on the end of the, the sheets or the ropes, and also lines on the deck that they can actually follow to enable them to just be on the boat like anybody else and take part. Okay, over to Harvey.
Here I am in the lift using the controls.
And over
This
to
is
Bev.
the view from Sandown. When I was on night watch, you can see the view up to the crow's nest. When I was on night watch, we often worked with other people, and I remember working with a gentleman, John, who'd recently had a stroke, and he said, "Well, I've got a bit of a problem here." He says, "My memory's terrible." And I said, "Well, I've got a bit of a problem here. My memory's terrible." And between us, we worked out a way, looking at the ship's log, of using letters to remember all the tasks we had to do. And you know, we got through it. We did the job. Well, we hope we did the right job. And one of the last things that we had to do when we were on night duty was to actually wake up night watch, was to actually wake up the next watch. We didn't have alarm clocks, we didn't need them. We made sure we get the next people up so we could go back to bed. And I tried to memorise the bloke's name I had to wake up, what bunk number he had, and where his bunk was. Well, it wasn't so easy in the dark, and unfortunately, I woke up the wrong person. Well, this gentleman, he was so lovely. He got his torch, he got out of bed, he went and found the right person for me and sorted that out. He was truly my knight with the shining torch. He was even funny about it. He was pleasant about it the next day.
So this is as we were passing the beautiful cliffs of the Isle of Wight in the morning. And this is us on our last day, wishing it hadn't come to an end because we had a fantastic time.
Okay, this is a photo of the whole crew. It was great. We loved meeting people from all walks of life, living together, working together as a team, and really getting to know each other. Over to Harvey.
Here is a pilot boat coming to help us more into Portsmouth.
This was a rib boat being lowered in the water as some of our crew went to port to catch the ropes.
Here's the ropes laid out ready to be caught in the port when we arrive. Here's the Spinnaker Tower. Friends and family had come to meet us, and some of them were actually up the tower at the time. And this is the view from the tower of the Tenacious coming into harbour.
And this was the rib boat waiting for us to help us moor us into Portsmouth.
This is Tenacious making its way into Portsmouth. Here's Tenacious from the dry land as we're nearing at the end of our voyage.
Here she is, all moored up in Portsmouth after a wonderful journey.
Oh! How awesome was that? Well, not just these guys. I'm sure you've got a lot of questions, but before we do that, I'd just like to ask each one of the crew in turn to just say a little bit about what the trip meant to them. So, ladies first, maybe.
Okay, I think I love the rhythm of the boat. Just a totally different life on board. Everything gets done. It's really efficient. but it's not at a breakneck speed, which is quite a nice contrast to normal life. But I think the main thing for me as Harvey's mum is just when seeing him go up the mast, everybody literally pulling together to enable that to happen. And it's just mind-boggling that, 40 years ago, somebody thought, why don't we get a wheelchair up the mast? I mean, that's unbelievable. But it just proves that it's actually possible. What is possible? There's so many things that are possible if you've just got a will and a love to do it. And as their motto says, a sea of possibility, and that's really how you feel when you're on board. Anything can be done.
Well, I'd like to say I've met 3 really lovely friends. I've made 3 lovely friends, and I've enjoyed every minute of the voyage with them. And I'm going to treasure, and I'm sure everyone else will, the memories that we have from that voyage.
Yeah.
I think it was a fantastic time, it really was, and I loved it, and everyone on board was really nice, and I was really fortunate as well to go with some really great people and some really good friends, and it was brilliant. I think for me though, it was just, it makes you think of the possibilities in our life. And one of the things I thought was great is the freedom, you can just go anywhere with it, and it was brilliant, it really was.
And finally, Admiral Harvey.
I like it all really. It wasn't my first time, it was my second time, so I really enjoyed it really.
Thank you. And Dennis, how do the questions work?
Sorry?
How do questions work?
How the questions work? They open the lid, move their chin, and out come the questions. Anyone have any questions, guys?
Oh, am I a question master?
You are.
All right. Have you got any questions? Oh, blimey. It's like being on QT. No. Come on, you must have some questions.
How many crew?
There were 40 voyage crew and 10 permanent crew, so there were 50 of us.
And they volunteers?
40 are you go on as voyage crew, so everybody is crew. Everybody, mucks in and does everything. And the other 10 were people that are on there permanently. Yeah.
Your chef, which was an important person.
Yeah, definitely.
And the captain.
Yeah, but they're great. They're really good.
Yeah, they were so supportive, and they were so, like you said, they made anything possible, and they were really great.
Yeah.
I mean, Michelle, who was one of the crew, actually, she went on, was it last year? She went on the voyage last year as a voyage crew, not a permanent crew. And she went with a friend in a wheelchair, and they were so impressed that they offered her a job, on the spot. But yeah, they were really great.
Anybody else? Well, I've actually got one. It's,
rough weather?
No, we didn't, fortunately.
Well, saying that, I was on watch one night, and we got to a force 8 wind, whatever that is, and they said at force 10 we've got to get everybody up for safety. So we were sort of thinking, yes, let's get everybody up. And it didn't happen.
We slept through it, we were oblivious. So we were lucky.
oh, gentleman there.
When are you going again?
Well, 1st of June, we're going from Poole to Poole. Oh, it's alright, I thought it was the video. We're going from Poole to Rouen in France, 50 kilometres up the River Seine. So that's a 7-night journey.
We're all going together again.
Yeah.
The four wheelie sailors.
I can't wait.
Anybody else?
When's your next trip?
Yeah, that's just
So,
June.
Can I ask mine now?
Yeah.
I was a bit mean. I still want to find out what that big lady was at the end.
I think it was something actually on the harbour side. I don't think it was. Because
It's the front of an old boat, I
is it?
think.
It's the actual.
It sticks at the front of the boat.
The bow.
Glorious.
Figurehead, yeah.
Figurehead, that's
It's
the word.
actually on the harbour side.
It was
isn't it,
huge
that
there.
one? Yeah.
Okay.
At what time did you consider your day's activities or work to finish if you weren't on the night shift? Would you be like?
When we actually managed to get down to the lower deck and the bar.
You might have just started.
Well, probably after the evening meal, if you weren't then on watch, you know, you were free to
You just need to.
do what you like. Harvey was a whiz at blackjack. He took everybody's counters.
Me and a few good games.
Dan was good at the quiz.
Yeah,
There was just lots happening in the evening. We all just got together and did all sorts.
It was a really nice opportunity as well in the evening when we had blackjack and we had the quiz to talk to other people, like other watchers, and get to know other people. And it was a good time out to get to know, because I mean we had people from all over. There was somebody else from Herefordshire actually on the boat, but we had people from
Scotland, Italy. You know,
The night watch started
well, there was the watches were through our 24-hour period. I think Dan and myself, we've got our watch cards with us, so we can show you. But
Feel free afterwards to go to individual crew members and ask questions.
We were generally on watch for a 2-hour period.
Yeah, 2 hours, yeah.
And then that could be from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, or through the night.
Who's that?
Yeah, tea and coffee's going to come soon.
Oh, okay, we'll keep asking questions then.
When we have tea and coffee, kettles are boiling, Sam's going to be around if anybody wants to ask about leisuring. Because it's very easy to say, oh yeah, I'll do that, yeah, it's a good idea. But it makes a big difference stepping forward and thinking, well, what can I do? How can I help? Certainly Gael and Harvey made a difference to leisuring when they joined it. But the most exciting project we've ever been involved in is the one you're going to come up with next, guys. You're going to hear something. And let's go and do it, let's have fun, it's much better that way. The guys are going to be around as well to ask questions, individual. I mean, I've asked Harvey a couple of times, what did it feel like being 2, 4, 6, 8 up that? It's about a rat up a drain pipe. But it was a hell of a difference, it was good to watch, it was good. So.
Harvey, do you know how long it took them to winch you up to the business?
About 5 minutes, I think,
Really?
because we had to edit the video right down.
How long did it take to come back down?
Oh, 10 seconds.
The thing about that as well, when we went down, I actually missed, because myself and Harvey went up after everyone else went up, because we did it in 2 sort of groups, if you like. And when we went down, we actually missed half of that happy hour because we were still.
I'm not forgetting happy hour is work.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have some people helping.
Oh, Nathan, go.
We have some.
How do you swim?
Oh, it was cold. It was very cold, Nathan. Dan was so brave jumping in. He really was so brave.
I have to say that the English tourist board were thrilled with that. Looked like the Med.
Yeah.
We were so
Did you
lucky.
like it?
I think Harvey just wanted to say a bit as well about when you were at the top, at the crow's nest.
2 people had to go up to help get within a hoist up to where it was.
There were people all over the place helping, weren't there, Harv? It was so amazing, wasn't
There were
it?
2 people up on the second deck
They went up first.
on the hoist.
Yeah, ready. Yeah. It was all very, they're all very safety conscious, aren't they? Thankfully. So Harvey had a harness around him and a harness on the wheelchair as well, in case anything happened. So yeah, it was all.
We go ahead and he had stuff before, didn't we?
Apparently so, yeah. When the first voyage we went on, there were no safety harnesses when we did they put the safety harnesses on, and they said, right, if you just climb up to the crow's nest and then you can put the clip on to actually get out onto the yard arm. But something had happened between that voyage and this one, and we were all using proper climbing kit, weren't we? All the way up, thankfully. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All the time, whenever we're at sea, we have a safety harness on, just in case it gets rough and we need to just clip
Yeah,
on.
we can just clip on. And,
Did any of you get seasick?
Not that I'm aware
yeah, well, I
of.
was all right actually. I was all right.
Yeah. No, it was
Was
okay.
it something that the crew or the visiting crew suffered with generally?
On our crew, it seemed to be okay. I don't think there was anyone that suffered with it, so we were all right.
I think we suffered with land legs more than anything.
Oh,
'Cause when we got off the boat, we were all over the place. Absolutely.
How was the alcohol?
For about 5 days after, when you closed your eyes, you were still
Yeah.
rocking, weren't you?
Oh, you definitely, yeah.
How often were the engines used? Were you mostly under sail, or did you?
In and out of harbour, obviously we need them, but when we were out at sea, we were lucky enough to have enough wind to be able to set the sails and sail.
They were quite quiet.
It's lovely when they turn the engines off and you're just under the power of the wind.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Beautiful.
Yeah, really lovely. And it's different to a motor engine, a boat with a motor engine, because with those you're sort of rocking like this and going like this, but with the Tenacious you're just cutting through. So as Bev described, at the meal times, you can actually be at a 45-degree angle, but she just stays at that angle. So it's actually apparently quite comfortable. Yeah, you just get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things when we went in sales that you noticed. It wasn't locked, but there was a slight lean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think when you go sort of transatlantic, you get the better sort of wind. We didn't really experience that.
And big waves, I should imagine.
That'd be nice.
What was the food like?
It was
That
good.
was amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
the food that we had, we had all sorts. And the cakes were amazing, and they were just really good, really nice.
Fresh bread every day. How on earth the chef did it? I don't know.
Yeah, very good. We've got some smoko for you to have with your tea and coffee. Smoko is, as Harvey explained, the homemade cake that you have twice a day.
There's no snowco like snowco.
No, so we were lucky actually, 'cause as Harvey said, it was 2 people's birthdays when we were on our voyage, so we had 2 lots of birthday
Two
cake.
big cakes.
And they were so well decorated as well.
Beautiful. And apparently it helps seasickness as well. If you eat plenty, you're not so likely to get seasick, opposite to what you might have thought. So, yeah. It's a good philosophy.
Tea time? Ladies and gentlemen. Tea first and then approach the crew.
Yeah. If people don't come and get a tea and coffee, the guys will scatter. Gail's going to person at the table talking about the big thing with the wooden sails on it. Jubilee Sailing Trust. Sam's around talking about Leisure Link, and the other guys are just around just to tap up to and offer to buy them a drink. Oh no, that's...
There's a
Get tea and coffee, guys.
couple of books out as well. That one, Sail the World, is about the Lord Nelson when she went around the world. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's alright. I was quite nervous.